Hi, I'm Rita. Welcome back to my booktube channel, Life Worth Reading. Today, I want to tell you all about my 2023 reading goals and about my TBR for the entire year. It's going to be a very exciting video. I'm just hoping that I stick to these goals and these books to read, because usually I'm not very good at keeping up with the goals that I set and the TBRs that I set, but we'll just have to see if this works or not. I honestly think that I didn't set any goals for 2022. I just kind of let the year happen, and as I reflect upon it now, I realize that I do want to set some goals up for myself, because I feel like it's important to reflect upon what happened last year and make changes or make commitments in terms of what worked for you and what didn't. And so as I reflected upon last year, I decided that I wanted to set some simple goals for myself. Some of them are very broad, some of them are very vague, and some of them are a little bit more specific. So let's get into it. One of the things that happened in 2022 that absolutely changed my reading forever was me rediscovering my library and just falling back in love with it. I didn't usually go in the last couple of years, and then this year I moved, and now I'm much closer to a very big and wonderful library, and that just opened up the opportunity for me to check out the books that they have and to take so many of them home and to read so much more than I would usually read. And it definitely just changed my reading for the entire year, and therefore that's something that I want to stick to. I want to continue to go to the library to pick up the books, but I want to be better about reading them, because sometimes I go and I pick up books that I'm interested in and then I end up giving them back because the time is up without having read them. So I'm really trying my hardest to at least try every single book that I do pick up from the library and not just let them collect dust in here before I give them back. It happened a few times, but I also DNF'd a lot of library books, which I do very easily and guilt-free, because I don't mind giving them back without having liked them or DNFing them. But that's definitely something that I want to stick to this year. I want to go more like I usually go and read the books that I get and give back the books that I didn't like, and just to keep that a habit, because it's something that makes me really happy and that helps my reading a lot. Another reading goal that I have for this year is completely new, because my birthday was in December and my boyfriend very lovingly and kindly got me a Kindle, which was one of the best gifts I've ever gotten in my life. I poured my heart out. I cried because I'm just so thankful to have this, and I've already bought my first book on here, and I just want to make the change in 2023 to read more on my Kindle. Unfortunately, because I'm outside of the US, I don't have access to Kindle Unlimited, which is how a lot of people read a lot of books. I just have to buy them individually and stuff. So I want to be very conscious of the books that I do buy to make sure that I read them and don't just let them accumulate on my Kindle shelf. But I'm very grateful that I have a Kindle now, and I definitely want to make it a goal to read more, because a lot of people say that it helps to read more, and I want to try it out. So that's a new reading goal that I have for this year that I've never had before. This other goal is very general. I just want to listen to more audiobooks. I go through phases with my audiobooks. Some months I read a lot of them, and some months I just go by without wanting to listen to audiobooks. But they were 32% of my overall reading last year, and it helped me to read a lot more and to listen to a lot more books. And I think it's just a beautiful and fun way to consume a book. And I definitely want to make it a priority to listen to more audiobooks this year. But sometimes it's a bit hard for me, because sometimes I just don't feel like it. And I don't know why. It's just like I go through phases, but I want to be more consistent with my audiobook listening, and I'm making it a priority for this year for sure. Then we have the big general goal. My goal this year is to read 100 books, which I think was a mistake, honestly. I read almost 80 last year, and that was the most I've ever read in a year. But I'm already very behind on that goal, but hopefully throughout the year it goes better for me. But I think it's a really big number, and I'm excited to challenge myself, but I also won't be sad if I don't achieve it, because it is a very big number for me, and I think it would be more realistic for me to set it at 75, but I've already done 100. It's on my reading journal, it's on my Goodreads, it's official, and we're just going to try our best to get there. Another goal of mine is to read at least 50% of my physical TBR. I am very excited about this goal because I love reading my physical TBR, because I am not a very big book collector. I can't afford new books all the time. So what I do is that I read the books on my shelf, and if I like them, I keep them. If I don't, I sell them secondhand and I buy new books, either secondhand or actually new. In this way, it's like always a rotating books on my shelf that I'm excited to read, and therefore this year I want to read at least 50% of it. I think that I have less than 20 books on my physical TBR right now, so it's not a big goal. I know some people out there have like 200 and 300 books on their physical TBR. That is not the case for me, so hopefully it'll be easier to pick up some of the books that I do have, but I do have some that have been there for years and I haven't read them, and I really need to get to them this year. And lastly, I have another goal that is to be better at tracking my books and tracking my DNFs, because I have my Goodreads, I have my reading journal, and then I have Storygraph. And last year I was just really bad at keeping track of the books that I did read, and especially tracking my DNFs, because some of them I counted towards my reading goals, some of them I didn't. And I just want to be better and more diligent about tracking my DNFs and my reads this year on those 3 places, because I want to get to the end of the year and see them all match, and this year they didn't. So I really am trying to make them match and to be much more careful when tracking the books that I read and my DNFs. And finally, this is just kind of a reminder for myself. I want to try new things in 2022. I was very experimental with my reading. I read a lot of different genres, I read a lot of different things, and that led to an overall not great reading year in terms of quality, but it did lead me to narrow down my taste and figure out what I like and what I don't like in books. And it made me think more critically about the books that I do read, in terms of obviously just my opinions. Always reviews are that, people's opinions. So, but it did lead me to think more critically about the books that I do read. And this year I also want to continue experimenting, but the main reminder is that I don't have to read books that I'm not interested in. In 2022, I tried a lot of popular books that I thought I would like, and I ended up feeling a little bit disappointed because they were books that I was not really excited to read. I just wanted to read because they were popular. And that led me to be a little bit disappointed in the books that I did read, some of them. And that on video will be coming out, the worst, most disappointing books of 2022. But yeah, I want to read things that I'm excited about, even if they're backlist, even if no one's ever heard of it. And then I don't want to read books that I'm not interested in. I know it seems simple, but sometimes when you're in the book community or booktube, even if you don't make videos, but just if you're in the community, it's sometimes hard to escape the hype. And it's just hard to convince yourself that you're not actually interested in that book, because either you make a good video or you would make a good Instagram post, or you just want to see what the hype is all about. But this year, I'm just going to remind myself that I don't have to read anything that I'm not interested in, no matter how popular it is. And I think that that's going to be a great reading goal for myself and a great reminder for myself. All right, so with all those reading goals out of the way, let's talk about my 2023 TBR. Now, if you're usually on Booktube, you've probably already seen the 23 books that I want to read in 2023 videos. A lot of people do those. It's, you know, like the year that you're in, you read that same amount of books. I cannot for the life of me do that. You know, like if I set myself up to read 23 books, I will not be reading those 23 books. And therefore, to narrow it down, I thought that I would do 12 books to read this year. So one for each month, and hopefully that will help me to actually stick to the TBR, because believe me, if I were to tell you that I'm going to read 23 books this year, I would not get even to half of them. So I'm doing the 12 books instead, and I do have my trusty little list here. So let's get through the 12 books that I'm going to be reading in 2023, hopefully. And then at the end of the year, we'll see what I have achieved. And hopefully I will have achieved at least some of them. Number 1, I went to read Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I got this book recently, secondhand. I've been waiting for a good deal on it, and I finally found one. It is gorgeous. It is a bit long, not gonna lie. It is 450 pages, and everyone talks about this book. Okay, I've heard so many things about this book. It has come out a while ago, and people still talk a lot about it. And I just want to see what the hype is all about. This is one of those that it is very popular, but I'm actually really interested in reading this book. I know it's about library, it's about this fantasy world where our main character works at a library where books can talk, and it just sounds like something that I might really enjoy. And I got it, so why not read it? I love this book, this cover, and I know that I'll get to it this year. When, I haven't planned for any of the months that I'll be reading these books. I think I might just shuffle them when I do my TBRs, and we'll just have to see which one comes up each month. Number 2 is a book that I got most recently, and that is Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead. This was gifted to me by my friend Bia. She was just here for Christmas and she gifted me this book, which I'm so thankful for. And this book is about, I know it's about a pilot, a woman pilot, and she, I think, flew across the world or something. And then years later, there was a movie about her, and this actress that plays her feels like this really big connection, and it's like this dividing timelines between the pilot's actual life and then the actress playing the pilot in the movie. And it is a hefty book. Like, I know it doesn't seem like much, but this book is almost 700 pages. That's a lot. That's a lot. But this book was shortlisted for the 2021 Booker Prize, so not last year, but the year before. And it just seems like something that I'm very interested in. I think that I would love to just explore this world. I usually do like, what do you call them? It's not two timelines, divided timelines. I can't remember what that's called, but I usually like that trope, and I think that I'll really enjoy this one. But it doesn't seem like much, but it is a big book, so I'm excited to get to this one and to see what I think of it. Then, to finish off my physical TBR books that I have on this list, I have Just Kids by Patti Smith. This was gifted to me on my birthday by my friend Teresa from Books with Tere. I absolutely adore her. I love her so much. I did not know which book she got me, and when I saw this I was so excited because I have been meaning to read this book, but it was one of those that I don't think I would ever buy for myself, if that makes sense. You know, those books where you want to read them, but every time you're in the bookstore it's just not a priority. So I'm very happy that I have this one, and it's a memoir about Patti Smith, and it's just a love story, I think, and I really love a good memoir. We know that about me. I love a good memoir, so I'm very excited to read this one, and thank you so much, Tara, for gifting me this. I am incredibly thankful. Moving on, we have a book that I'm going to buy soon. I don't know when, but I finally saw it at stores here and it got me so excited. It's The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. Listen, have I read Hamnet? No. Have I read another book that I got by her secondhand after you'd gone? No. Do I desperately want to have this book and read it? Yes. It is about, I think it's set in Renaissance times, and it's about this girl that marries into a rich family and she's never looked after, and it's just one of those like historical dramas that I love. I love historical dramas. Listen, the girls that get it, the girls that don't. I absolutely adore historical fiction. I love court dramas, and it just seems like a really, really great book, and I think it's the one that I'm most excited to read by her. And I'm going to buy it soon, and hopefully I'll get to it this year, and hopefully I'll get to the other ones as well, but if I don't, this is definitely my priority. Number 5, we have Notes on an Execution. This book was talked about a lot last year. It's one of the books that was on people's best books of 2022. I've seen it a lot in 2022, and everyone just talks very highly of it. They speak incredible things about this book. I know it's about a serial killer that's on death row, and it's about his story but set through the eyes of the women around him. I know that it does not glorify serial killers, which is something that I'm very concerned about, and I think it's a trend that has been taking over media spaces, and that is very concerning, the glorification of serial killers and true crime. But I know that it doesn't do that, and I'm not sure if I'm going to like it. It's a book that I'm interested to know what I think, because even though it seems like a hit for a lot of people, I've also seen some mixed reviews for it, which makes me excited to know on what side I'll be on. Number 6, we have a sequel, and that is The Bullet That Missed by Richard Osman. The Thursday Murder Club and The Man Who Died Twice were my last 2 reads of December last year, and I just really want to continue on with the trilogy. I got both of them from the library, but unfortunately this third one hasn't been translated yet and therefore is not at my library, and I also don't want to buy a physical copy because I don't have the others, and it's not on SCRIBD either, so I'm still figuring out how the hell I'm going to read this book, but I really want to. I greatly enjoyed both of those books. I love the found family. I love the characters. The mystery of the second one was alright compared to the first one, but I just really want to continue on with the series and to figure out what happens in this one, and I really want to read it, but I don't know how. Number 7, we have the start of a series, which concerns me, but that is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I've been meaning to read this book for the longest time now, and listen, we're on, I think that also like in media right now, we're also on that Knives Out mystery era, and I've always loved mysteries. I've loved Agatha Christie and all of that, so I think that I'm really excited about this one. It does give me nice Knives Out vibes, at least the first one, and it does have some romance in it, which is concerning to me. I don't usually like that in my mysteries, but we'll just have to see what I think of it, because people say that this one is great and that the other 2 are not so great, but well, we gotta start somewhere, right? And I'm going to read The Inheritance Games this year eventually, and we'll have to figure out if I want to continue on with the series or not. Number 8 is a book that is very outside of my comfort zone, but that I'm very excited to read, and that is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Listen, I am not a science fiction girly. We know this, but I just can't help to be intrigued by this one because everyone I see it gives it 5 stars. Literally, like Casey just read it and she just gave it 5 stars, and she said it was already like one of her favorites of the year. Everyone that I've seen has given this book 5 stars, and I want in. If there is any science fiction book that I think could make it, it's that one. And I want to buy it, but there's been a cover going around that is so ugly and I hate it, so I'm waiting out for the cover that I do like. But I do want to buy it because my boyfriend also really loves science fiction, and I think that if I get it, then I'll loan it to him and maybe he'll like it as well, hopefully. So I do want to buy it sometime, but I'm just waiting for the ugly cover to fade and the old cover to come back, because this one just ain't it. Number 9, we have another sequel, and believe me, I could have made a whole list of just sequels, but these are 2 that I'm very much prioritizing, and this one is Blood Marks by Tracy Deonn. Listen, I was not the biggest fan of Legendborn. I gave it 3.75, let's say, almost 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, but some of the King Arthur lore got a little bit lost on me. That whole part of history is very confusing to me, and just the Merlins and the fantasy, it's not my thing. So some of those aspects of it got a little bit lost on me. But other than that, I really enjoyed that book. I thought it was great character work. I love the characters. I love the relationships. And I really want to read the sequel. It's also really big. We'll just have to see what I think of it, but it's a sequel that I do want to prioritize. I thought that this would be a duology, but apparently it's going to be at least a trilogy, and I do want to catch up before the next one just comes out. Number 10, we have a book that I had never heard of, and it's called Long Division, and it's by Kies Lehman. And this book, I had never heard of it. I saw it on SCRIBD, or was it on Kindle store? I saw it someplace, and it's a very backlist book. It's from 2013, but the description really intrigued me. I'm going to read it. The book contains 2 interwoven stories. In the first, it's 2013. After an onstage meltdown during a nationally televised quiz contest, 14-year-old Sidney Coatson becomes an overnight YouTube celebrity. The next day, he's sent to stay with his grandmother in the small coastal community of Malahatchie, where a young girl named Bass Shepherd has recently disappeared. Before leaving, Sidney is given a strange book without an author called Long Division. He learns that one of the book's main characters is also named Sidney Coulson, but Long Division is set in 1985. This 1985 Sidney, along with his friends and love objects, Shelley Crump, discover a way to travel into the future and steals a laptop and cell phone from an orphaned teenage rapper called Bass Shepherd. They ultimately take this with them all the way back to 1964 to help another time traveler they meet protect his family from the Klan. City's two stories ultimately converge in his mysterious workshed behind his grandmother's, where he discovers the key to Bass's disappearance. So it's basically about time travel, and it seems like there's a lot going on, alternative timelines, and I am very into time travel books. I don't read a lot of them, but this one just seemed really interesting, and the reviews are very good, even though it's kind of an older book that I had never heard of, and I'm very curious to figure out what I think of this one and if it's a book that I want to recommend to the greater audience. On to the last two books. Number 11, we have SCRIBD by Ian Reid. I listened to actually. I'm Thinking of Ending Things Exactly by the same author. I liked it. I wasn't the greatest fan of like the twist and all of that, but I did like the setting. It was very uncomfortable. It was very eerie. It was scary. And so I have a lot of hopes for this one. I know this one is about growing old, and a lot of people have given it 5 stars because it is scary but also emotional and very tense. And I think it's going to be a very emotional read, but I'm excited to figure out what he can do with this sentiment of growing old and this sadness around forgetting and growing old, and how he can mix that with horror. I'm very excited to see what he does with this concept, and it's a book that I think that I'll really enjoy. The last one that we have is Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola. I still need to read this author's first book, which is a collection of stories called Love in Color, but I haven't, and I do want to read that yet. But Honey and Spice, I put this on my TBR knowing that I am no longer a fan of romances, okay? I enjoy some romances as much as the other person. For example, the Brown Sisters trilogy by Talia Hibbert was incredible. There are some other romance books that I enjoyed, but in 2022 I read way less of them, and honestly I liked not reading romances. I'm not really a romance girly, but this sounds like a romance mixed with contemporary, and that I'm into. I like contemporary books that mix in romance and not just objectively a romance book like Christina Lauren or something like that. And so if there's a book that could work, I think it could be this book and this author. There are some others that are still interesting to me, but I think that I put Honey and Spice to really figure out if I'm still even a little bit into romance, or if I should just completely take that out of my reading taste. And this is a book that I know is about a Black British woman that is not looking for love, and I think that then she finds it. I don't know. It's the last romance book that I'm going to read just to figure out if I should continue on or not, and therefore it's on my list for books this year to read. Okay, so those are my reading goals for 2023, and also my 12 book TBR for 2023, one for each month. Let me know if you have set any reading goals for yourself, and also any positive or negative things that you have to say about the books that I did mention. If you recommend any, if you don't recommend any, let me know. And I think that's all that I gotta say. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content, and I'll see you in my next video. I hope you have a nice day, and always remember that life is worth reading.